Have you ever been on some sort of diet, gotten on the scales, and been horrified to see that your weight has gone up for some reason? Now, don't panic. I always encourage people to never take one weight in isolation because there can be so many things happening where you haven't actually truly gained weight. Now, the first thing I'd be thinking of is what did you do the day before? Now, what we did yesterday is going to have a huge impact on our weight and the numbers that we see on the scale today. So, for example, if you ate more carbs than normal throughout the entire day, or perhaps for dinner last night, then your weight today could be heavier. But it's not body fat, it's going to be water changes. And that's why if someone goes on a crash diet, they usually lose this huge amount of weight in the first week. But then the second they go back to their normal food intake, it goes back up to normal. It's because you're 1 week you're dry, 1 week you're wet, you've got more water in your system. The only thing that's changed is the amount of fluid that you've got. So what I recommend people do periodically is weigh themselves maybe once a week, maybe even every day for a month to see what is happening over the course of the month. Is there any patterns and any, things that you can see that are consistently happening, resulting in a weight being higher or weight being lower? I'll often see someone's weight being heavier on a Monday, for example, after they've done 2 long, really hard rides on the weekend. Maybe you didn't fuel that well. I find so often if people haven't fueled training sessions really well and they're in catch-up calorie mode, it results in a crazy weight for a couple of days afterwards. That's definitely one thing. I'll also see if people aren't taking enough electrolytes or enough fluids, if there's a bit of an imbalance there. Sometimes we can have some water retention remaining the days afterwards. Travel. I've had athletes who have to do international or national flights where they will gain about 2 to 3 kilos of fluid that can sometimes take them 2 to 3 days to shift. Now, again, what I recommend is we use numbers as data, not using it as information to panic and freak out, because when I see and I'm looking at your food intake or your food diaries and your behaviors, if you've weighed yourself, how does that set the rest of the day? Do you make smart choices, or do you restrict, or do you go extreme and hold yourself back, not allowing yourself to eat? We want to not let that information derail us and put us in a position where we make silly choices or we just throw the baby with the bathwater and all that sort of thing. One number in isolation isn't going to break the bank. For women like myself, I know that my weight, perhaps a week before my period comes, I can be sometimes 2 kilos or more heavier. And it's a really frustrating position to be in for so many women who are then beating themselves up thinking that they've gained weight, where the only thing that's changed is the amount of water in our body. And we can hold a lot of extra water naturally that week before our period sort of comes. And our clothes feel tight, things don't feel good in our bodies. And so if you recognize that, you know that about yourself, and you've seen okay, you can help pull yourself out of the fear factor or whatever stress or restriction you might spiral, you might end up going down, make smart choices and remember okay, cool, this week my numbers are heavier than normal. Next week, when my period comes, I'm going to peel all out and my weight will just go back to normal and it's going to stabilize. I don't know about you, for any women out there, but there'll be 1 week where I just feel nothing's fitting. And the next week I'm I'm so lean, I'm crazy. And it's this constant sort of spiral every single month. And I don't know, we've had this cycle happen many, many times over our lifetime. And each month is still a surprise. What's going on? What's wrong? It's okay, that's what's going on. My hormones are making my body go crazy. When it comes to true weight loss for women, I'd be expecting, we might not see true results for about a month after we make changes that we're strategic with. Men often more likely to see some changes within 2 weeks because they don't have the hormone chaos that we unfortunately have to put up with as women. But men will still see some big fluctuations in their weight. And I had a client recently who, after he's gone on weekends or he's been up, maybe been partying or been on a conference, and his weight might be 2 or 3 kilos heavier than normal. When we look at the food intake diary, it's food intake is often sometimes double what it would be normally throughout the week. And it can sometimes take a few days to normalize after that. So that's a frequent pattern for someone where you're being really strict during the week and then you go crazy on the weekends. Of course, your weight is going to be constantly yo-yoing up and down over the course of the month. And you might not actually be seeing much progress in weight loss if that is a goal of yours, if you are having these big weekends. And that's why I'm very much against people doing cheat meals or trying to catch up calories or saving it for the weekend, because I find that The impact is that we tend to over course correct, and we can perhaps be eating significantly more and undermining whatever deficit that we might have made throughout the week that results in no net change overall. If weight loss is like body fat, body composition changes is a goal for you, you're much better to create lots of little deficits in lots of little places throughout the day rather than just relying on one meal or one place for that to be occurring. But yeah, as I was saying, like the things that will make your weight go up artificially is eating more carbs. You could be eating more salt than normal. Also doing more exercise than normal. If someone's done a 5 or 6 or 7 hour bike ride, maybe didn't fuel or rehydrate properly around that, definitely I would expect your weight the next day to be heavier from some of the inflammation and the recovery from that sort of situation. So just because it's gone up, just because it's gone down, doesn't mean that you've gained or lost weight. We want to be looking for patterns and trends over weeks and months. Is it sustainable, or is it just a reactive sort of situation? For most people, weight maintenance is the hardest part of their journey of learning to optimize their body composition. And so if you can maintain your weight throughout the chaos, throughout traveling, throughout all sorts of different scenarios that we are likely to face throughout our lifestyle, then that is a much better position for you to be in, because that is the hardest thing for people to do. It's often people can lose weight very, very quickly, but often unsustainably, and they rebound. And every time we do that rebound, we're much more likely to overshoot the mark and perhaps gain more than we had lost in the first place. So I would also remind you that your weight and the number that you see on the scale doesn't determine your worth or your value. You are valuable and worthy as a human, no matter what the number is. And it's not going to make you more or less lovable if that number is higher or if it's lower. It's just a number. That's all for today. Like, subscribe, fuel your ride, and I'll see you next time.